program budget, Ambassador Ana Cristina Rodriguez Pineda, after the working group's meeting held earlier. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the report on the working group on the program budget contained in document just mentioned before? I see no objection. The report of the working group is adopted. The Assembly shall now take action on the draft resolution of the program budget for 2025 contained in document ICC-ASP23/L8. I now give the floor to the coordinator on the budget, Ambassador Ana Cristina Rodriguez, to introduce the draft resolution.
Thank you, Madam President. Distinguished delegates, thank you for giving me the floor. The 2025 proposed program budget was submitted to the 23rd session of the Assembly to the Registrar of the Court. By the Registrar of the Court, sorry. Is there an echo? Yeah, sorry. The Assembly has been provided with statements by the Registrar, as well as statements from the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, the External Auditor, and the Acting Chair of the Audit Committee. The relevant documentation will be contained in Volume 2 of the official records of the 23rd session. The draft resolution on the program budget for 2025 document ICC-ASP/23/L.8 dated 6 December 2024 has been distributed by email. The draft resolution contains 18 sections from A to R, addressing various aspects of the budget. The resolution was discussed during informal consultations in the Hague Working Group this year and in the Assembly's Working Group on the program budget. The budget as set out in the draft resolution amounts to a total of €195,481,000, including the host state loan. A portion of that amount, $928,000, comprising non-recurring costs in 2025, would be financed from the anticipated 2023 cash surplus. The amount to be contributed by states parties would therefore represent an increase of 3.99% compared to the 2024 approved budget, including the host state loan. It is my conclusion as the coordinator that there is consensus, and therefore I would like to submit the resolution for the consideration of the Assembly. I would like to thank the Committee on Budget and Finance, the External Auditor, the Audit Committee, and the Court for their contributions. I also wish to thank the focal points for the budget subtopics of budget management oversight and premises, Ambassador Jaime Moscoso Valenzuela from Chile and Mr. Julián Camilo Silva from Colombia, respectively. I would also like to recognize the contribution from the German delegation last night with giving us some provisions for additional energy, but also with coming up with a good proposal today that helped bridge the gap between the opposing positions. I also wish to thank Ms. Marisa McPherson. The support from the Secretariat has been really formidable, outstanding, and unconditional, and I would not have been able to do this without her support. I also wish to express my sincere appreciation to all the delegations that went through this very long and intense journey in the most constructive and engaging and very innovative way to find a way forward, and which helped us reach an agreement on this very important and difficult draft resolution. It is my hope that the resolution can be adopted by consensus. Thank you, Madam President.
I thank the coordinator for her introduction and for her tireless efforts to arrive at a successful outcome. Is there any delegation that wishes to explain its position before taking action on the draft resolution? I see none. May I take it that the Assembly wishes to adopt the draft resolution contained in document ICC-ASP/23/L8 without a vote? I see no objection. The draft resolution contained in document ICC-ASP23/L8 is adopted. Is there any delegation wishing to explain its position after the adoption of the resolution? I recognize Argentina. You have the floor.
Gracias, señora presidenta.
Thank you very much, Madam President. First of all, let me acknowledge the work undertaken by the facilitator, and thanks to her stewardship, we were able to bring this to a successful conclusion. But also under para M2 and A10 of Annex 1, and there, just as has been stipulated in Article 7 of subpara 3, there were some amendments. Thank you very much.
I thank you for your statement, and I give floor. I do not see any more requests for the floor. So we shall now proceed to take action on the proposed program budget for 2025, contained in document ICC-ASP23/10, as read in conjunction with the recommendations of the working group contained in its report ICC-ASP23/WGBB/CRP1. Is there any delegation that wishes to explain its position before taking action on the proposed program budget? I see none. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to adopt by consensus the proposed program budget for 2025, contained in document ICC-ASP/23/10, as read in conjunction with the recommendations of the working group on the budget contained in its report ICC-ASP23/WGBB/CRP1. I see no objection. It is so decided. Is there any delegation that wishes to explain its position after the adoption of the program budget? I see none. I wish to express appreciation on behalf of the Assembly for the assistance which the Chair of the Committee on Budget and Finance, Ms. Monica Sanchez-Izquierda, and the Acting Chair of the Audit Committee, Mr. Werner Trummel, has provided at this session. The Assembly has thus concluded its consideration of Agenda Item 15. The Assembly will now consider the draft report of the 23rd session. Before proceeding to adopt the report, I invite Ambassador Calzadilla Sarmiento of Bolivia, the rapporteur, to introduce the draft report contained in document ICC-ASP/23/L1.
Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Madam President. It's my honor to present the draft report of the ASP to the of the ICC, celebrating its 23rd session in the World Forum in The Hague from the 2nd to the 6th of December 2024. The report is in document ICC ASP 23L1. All of the references regarding the resolutions adopted in this assembly will be reflected in the report as appropriate, and the official documents of the 23rd session of the assembly will be published in 2 volumes. Volume 1 will have 3 parts to it. The first is the debates of the session, and that'll be divided into 2 chapters. Chapter A is called Introduction. It has paragraphs 1 to 13 providing factual information about the convening and participation in the 23rd session of the ASP, opening of the session, makeup of the credentials committee, adoption of the agenda, and organization of work. Whereas Chapter B, called examination of items on the agenda of the 23rd session of the ASP, will, for its part, look at all of the work undertaken during the session. It'll provide factual information about the Assembly's work, item by item, and it will refer to the various outcomes of the activities undertaken, resolutions and decisions adopted, any recommendations formulated, and the agreements achieved during the Assembly. Chapter B will have 17 different sections. Paragraphs 14 to 16 in Section 1 refer to the states in arrears. Paras 17 and 18 of Section 2 of the draft report deal with the credentials of the representatives of states parties in the 23rd session. Section 3, paras 19 to 22, cover the general debate that took place during the 23rd session. Section 4, paras 23 to 25, provide a report on the Bureau's activities, of which the Assembly took note. Paragraph 26 of Section 5 refers to the report on the Court's activities, and the Assembly also took note thereof. Para 27 of Section 6 discusses the report of the Board of Directors of the TFV, of the ICC, and the declaration of its chair. The Assembly also took due note thereof. Section 7, paras 28 to 30, covers issues concerning the examination of the system, the review mechanism of the ICC and the Statute of Rome adopted at ICC ASP23 Resolution 4. It also covers the related issues, such as the implementation of the tenure policy and the introduction of a moratorium on recruitment of ICC staff from nationalities from non-states parties, both of which were contained in resolutions ICC ASP 23 Res 2 and also in ICC ASP 23 Res 3, respectively. Section 8, paras 31 to 34, refers to the election of the 5 members of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims of the ICC. Paras 35 to 37, Section 9, deal with the election of the 5 members of the Committee on Budget and Finance. Section 10, para 38, deals with the election of members of the Audit Committee and the candidacies for the candidacies of judges for the ICC. Section 11's paragraphs 39 to 43 looks at the examination and adoption of the budget for the 23rd financial period. The ASP approved the working group's report and working document, ICC ASP23 WGPB CRP1. They also approved the program budget for 2025. Moreover, the Assembly adopted ICC ASP23 Resolution 6 on the budget program, which covers the following topics, among others. Firstly, the budget program for 2025, which includes The total of 195,481,000 euros and staffing matrices for all of the major programs. And from this amount, we have to deduce the host state loan repayments. Secondly, the system of quotas for sharing the court's costs, the transfer of funds across different programs as approved, as in accordance with the approved program for 2024, the creation of budgetary proposals, the strategic focus for improving the budgeting process, working capital fund, contingency fund, outstanding contributions, Security Council referees, budget management oversights, travel, interpreting for the Hague Working Group, family visits for indigent detainees, and voluntary contributions. All of these items that I've just mentioned and the contents thereof will be in Resolution ICC ASP23 Resolution 6, and that'll be reflected in the final report. Paragraph 44 in Section 12 handles the reports from the external auditors, and this was actually discussed by the working group on the program budget. The auditor's report and the draft program budget for 2025, as well as the reports of the CBF, will be included in Volume 2 of the official documents. In Section 13, paragraph 45, the Assembly is noted as having discussed the cooperation with the Court in plenary, which came under the title, How Can States Parties Strengthen Their Support for the Court? And paragraph 45 shows that the Assembly adopted Resolution 5 on cooperation with the Court. In para 47, section 14, there is mention of the amendments to the Rome Statute and the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, and the Assembly took note of the working group's work on these amendments. Section 15, paragraph 48, refers to the decision and dates of the upcoming sessions of the ASP. Para 49, section 16, gives information concerning decisions about the date and times for upcoming CBF meetings. As in previous occasions, the report on the resolution of general organization will not have a separate paragraph because the decisions taken in this regard are already reflected in various different parts of the report. Section 17 is about any other business, and paragraph 50 refers to the special session of the Assembly so as to examine the amendments concerning the crime of aggression, which is scheduled for the 7th to 9th of June next year at the UN headquarters. In the same section, para 51 talks about earmarked funds for the participation of least developed countries as well as other developing states in the work of the Assembly.
La segunda parte del
The second part of the report will contain observations and recommendations from the Assembly concerning the auditor's reports, recommendations of the Assembly concerning the draft program budget for 2025, as well as any observations and recommendations by the Assembly concerning financial and budgetary implications. The third part, I would suggest that, as has been done in the past, that the Secretariat incorporate in the final report the resolutions adopted by the Assembly in its 23rd session. The appendices to the 23rd session report will include the report from the Credentials Committee, the Working Group on the program budget, and the declaration of the CBF and a list of documents. I just wanted to say to all delegations that if you do have any corrections or editorial changes to make concerning language, please send your corrections directly to the Secretariat, and those corrections will be taken duly on board in the official documents. So, Madam President, that brings me to the end of my report of the 23rd session of the Assembly, and I suggest that it be adopted. Thank you very much.
I thank the rapporteur for introducing the report of the 23rd session of the Assembly. We shall now begin the adoption of our report, and I propose that we proceed section by section. And as it was announced by the rapporteur, I request also the delegations wishing to propose editorial or technical corrections to please contact the Secretariat directly. Those do not need to be raised here during the adoption process. First, we shall go to Chapter A of Part 1, Introduction. Can we adopt that? I see no objection. Section A is adopted. Chapter A is adopted. And we shall move then to Chapter B, Section 1, States in Arrears. Section 1 is adopted. Section 2, Credentials of Representatives of State Parties at the 23rd session. It is adopted. Section 3, General Debate, is adopted. Section 4, Report of the Activities of the Bureau, adopted. Section 5, Report on the Activities of the Court, adopted. Section 6, Report of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims, adopted. Section 7, Review of the International Criminal Court and the Rome Statute System, adopted. Section 8, Election of the members of the Board of Directors of the Trust Fund for Victims, adopted. Section 9, Election of 5 members of the Committee on Budget and Finance, adopted. Section 10, Election of the members of the Advisory Committee on the Nomination of Judges, adopted. Section 11, Consideration and Adoption of the Budget for the 23rd financial year, adopted. Section 12, Consideration of the Audit Reports, adopted. Section 13, Cooperation, adopted. Section 14, Amendments to the Rome Statute and the Rules of Procedure and Evidence, adopted. Section 15, Decision concerning the dates and venues of the next session of the Assembly of States Parties, adopted. Section 16, Decisions concerning the dates and venue of the next session of the Committee on Budget and Finance, adopted. And Section 17, Other Matters, adopted. We have thus completed the adoption of our report. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to adopt the report of the 23rd session of the Assembly of States Parties as a whole? I see no objection. The report of the 23rd session of the Assembly contained in document ICC-ASP23/L1 is adopted. The Secretariat will compile the report and the relevant annexes as soon as possible, and the final version will be posted on the official website of the Court. May I take it that it is the wish of the Assembly to proceed on this basis? I see no objection. It is so decided. Distinguished delegates, we have thus concluded our consideration of the items on our agenda for the 23rd session. Before closing, I wish to indicate that the Coalition for the International Criminal Court has requested the opportunity to make a brief statement. Does the Assembly agree to invite the Coalition for the International Criminal Court to make a brief statement? I see no objection. I give the floor to the Coalition for the International Criminal Court.
Thank you, Madam President. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is with honor to address you today on behalf of the Coalition for the ICC. As a new member of the Coalition's steering committee, the Coalition is the world's largest civil society partnership. We're here as a delegation of human rights defenders and organizations committed to international justice and the fight against impunity. As we have heard repeatedly over the past 5 days, this is a critical moment for the ICC and the Rome Statute system, and yet the commitment of civil society remains steadfast. As you have seen during this session, there is tremendous interest in the work of the court. With situations in countries across the globe, the reach of the court has grown significantly, and with it, the number of victims and survivors hoping for justice. Through our interventions in the plenary, in the debates, and inside events, civil society voices have raised the importance of meaningfully engaging victims at the court, concerns about double standards, and the need for sufficient resources for the court. We will continue to engage with you towards these ends and express our serious concern that once again, the budget agreed by state parties pales in comparison to the work before it. Crucially, we have heard over the last days the need to ensure that the work of the court can simply continue in the face of potential sanctions and other concrete efforts to undermine this institution. We recall our coalition's statement to the cooperation plenary and urge you, the court's state parties, to speak up in defense of the court's vital work. To be crystal clear in your firm commitment to your obligations under the Rome Statute, including on arrests, and to be prepared to protect the court, its staff, and all those cooperating with it from the effect of those sanctions. If ever there was a moment to come together in solidarity in the movement for international justice, it is now. As civil society, we know that threats to the court go hand in hand with threats to those who cooperate with the court and defend it. And as frontline human rights defenders, we are acutely aware of the high stakes of this moment. For this reason, we must stand firmer than ever in our support to victims, to those for whom this court was created. We must commit to ensuring that the spirit of the Rome Statute is carried forward and not undermined at a time when we need it the most. Thank you.
I thank the Coalition for these remarks. Distinguished delegates, distinguished representatives of the court, dear colleagues, dear friends, we are now at the closing of this 23rd session of the Assembly of States Parties. I would like to particularly acknowledge the work conducted during 2024 in the working groups in New York and The Hague, and by the facilitators and the ad hoc focal points as they carried out the mandates of the Assembly under the leadership of their respective coordinators, Vice Presidents Michael Kanu from Sierra Leone and Margareta Kasangana from Poland. Allow me also to extend my gratitude to the review mechanism states parties representatives, Ambassador Paul van den Eyssel and Ambassador Michael Imran Kanu, as well as the country focal points, Bangladesh, Chile, and Poland, for their tireless efforts. I would like to thank delegations for the commitment and flexibility demonstrated during the last few days. This constructive approach has allowed the Assembly to successfully resolve a range of issues. I trust that we will be able to carry forward the mandates contained in the resolutions which we have adopted today. I wish to sincerely thank all the states parties, observer states, members of civil society, and of course the Court, for their support and cooperation, without which we would not have been able to successfully conclude our work. I would also like to thank the interpreters for their flexibility, which has allowed us to conclude our work today, or tonight, should I say. My thanks also go to the staff of the Secretariat of the Assembly for the incredible support provided in preparation of the Assembly and in the course of this week. The laws of physics teach us that where there is force, there is resistance. As the challenges faced by the Court grow in number, complexity, and nature, states parties' support must grow in resolve, commitment, and strength. The Court, our Court, is needed now more than ever. Before I close this session, I would like to invite you to rise and observe 1 minute of silence dedicated to prayer and mediation, in particular for victims and survivors of atrocity crimes around the world. I thank you. I now declare the 23rd session of the Assembly of States Parties to the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court closed. I wish you all happy holiday season and safe travels to those returning to New York or capitals.
Congratulations, Madam President. Congratulations on your first assembly.
We did finish it even today.